Yo, what is up? What's up, everybody? I forgot to do my vlog yesterday, so I'm doing it in the car on my way home today. By the way, if you like the random shit I talk about, make sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel to watch more random shit about art or me just ranting about philosophical subjects. Also check out my website, EzekielSchmidtArt.com, because that will greatly help me on my journey through my art career. But this week's been very nice. It was awesome, 4th of July. I love watching fireworks. I love people watching on holidays. It's interesting to see how they change their behavior and do things they normally wouldn't do. Like, I don't know if it's like this in other areas, but apparently up here, people like to get fucked up and drink and then go driving on purpose. Like, I never understood drinking and driving unless, like, it's an emergency and, like, you need to get out of a situation, so you need to get the fuck out. I don't know. But I never understood the enjoyment of getting drunk then driving. Maybe I'm just lame. But apparently there's a lot of that goes on around here, so it's like, that's an interesting thing that happens every 4th of July. It's also interesting to see people talk about my freedoms, a lot around the 4th and independence. But we are, I would say, not really free in the sense that they think about freedom, like freedom to just do whatever you want. That's something, as I think I've talked before, that comes from within. No one can give you freedom. If they give you freedom, that means that they were your master in the first place. So then you were a slave. But a person that's truly free has never been a slave, never will be a slave, and has no master. They have people that they respect, people that they look up to, people that they will listen to their advice, but they will never solely obey that person just because of their authority figure. So it's just interesting to see a lot of people that are very bootlickerish talk about their freedoms and how happy they are for their freedoms. It's like, yeah, but are we really free? No. Well, not if you are, not if you make moral choices based on the laws of a country. You are not free. If you make your choices based on law, you are not free. You have to make your choices based on the ethics and morality of a situation. And each situation is completely different, so you can never predict what's going to happen. You can never formulate rules of ethics and morals that will actually work in every situation, which is why I think Kant's foundation of ethics is actually bullshit. It is obviously formulated from a Christian point of view, and as much as I respect the Christian point of view and the whole love everybody thing, and I myself try to embrace that ideology of loving everyone as yourself, it is not realistic to expect everyone else to do that either, and it never will be realistic, because as long as we remain animals, which we always will until we become like transhuman or some shit, we will have territorialness, we will have jealousy, we will have every negative emotion that we also have the counterpart of the positive emotion. So we'll never have love without some kind of hate. So the Christian ethic of, like, treat everybody awesome, and they'll treat you awesome, that doesn't work. Or trying to be the nice guy and be the white savior, which a lot of New Agers, apparently from examples that I've seen in my life, lots of people that are very into the New Age, very much, dude, you just need to get your chakras aligned and just listen to me, very much listen to me, I know what to do, I'll tell you what to do, even though they're, appropriating shit from a Eastern system that they've never grown up in the culture. They don't know really much about the religion, they just know enough to know the yoga poses and how to, wear the yoga pants when they go to the studio. But I forgot where I was going with that. As long as you obey laws, if you make your choices dependent on laws, you will never truly be free, because your master will always be the government, which is the people that make the laws. So whoever is in charge of making the laws at present will be your master, and you will be their servant slave. So yeah, that's interesting to think about with, the whole 4th of July, winning our independence. I wonder how many people realize that most of the people in America, while the revolution was going on, many of them were actually loyalists and did not go side with the revolutionaries until they were either fucked over by the British with something, or they were impressed, which means to basically take you as hostage and force you to become a soldier by the Revolutionary Army. A small group of merchants in different states came together and decided they had enough. And as much as I also believe that the Revolutionary War was overall a positive development because of what America has produced, besides the horrible shit that America has produced, which is a lot of it, there are a lot of good things that came out of it. They may have come out of something else if the Revolutionary War didn't happen, but we started a completely new way of being in politics and thinking and all that shit because of these few merchants that persuaded other people to fight their battle for them. That's essentially, and revolutionary thinkers, it's essentially what happened with the Revolutionary War. A small group of people persuaded the rest of the population that the government that was in power at the time was unlawful, corrupt, and didn't care about them. And then from there they started the Revolutionary War to gain their own independence, so that way they could do what they liked, what the people in power would like. Even then, there was still lots of contention between the different states. That's why we have states' rights and states' laws that are completely different from state to state, because each person had their own view of how things should be run. And so they made their own mini country, pretty much. A state is a mini country within a bigger country. But yeah, it's interesting to think about that for the 4th of July, Independence Day, and all that shit. It's like, most of the people either didn't know that there was a war going on because everything was so fucking far spaced out because we were pioneers back then, or they were loyalists. And then there was the few people that actually did shit, which were the revolutionaries. The loyalists didn't kind of Some of them actually supported the troops and, ratted out their other fellow countrymen. But then a lot of them just didn't give a fuck. From what little I know of American history and the Revolutionary War, that's what I can say. But obviously I am not a historian or fluent in the subject. So the freedoms we have now were won by a small group of business owners that had enough of their oppressive, overtaxing government. And they persuaded a bunch of people. And essentially, I think that's what's going to happen again, not within this generation, or at least in my lifetime. I believe in a few more generations, our government it's already stagnant. It's an archaic system. But eventually, it'll become so backwards compared to how far technology and progress and science is advancing. Our government and our system of politics will have to advance. And I don't think socialism is the answer, or what will happen. Because socialism itself is an archaic system. So I don't think that communism, and none of that bullshit, people are worried about other already known ideologies taking over. That's not going to happen. There's going to be something completely new that will sweep the nation. And it's going to start our civilization will collapse at some point. That's just the rhythm of civilization. Civilizations, they collapse and they reform under new styles. And that's what's going to happen within the next 200 years, I think. Because very few civilizations last more than 300 years, except for, you have Sumerian and Egyptians, but ever since then it just gets faster and faster and faster. With civilization rising, empire rising, and then collapsing. Rising, collapsing. I can't wait to see what the world will be like in the next 20 years. Because it's already very interesting with how things are going in the present. I don't think I can predict any real trends or say too much about what's going to happen in the next 20 years, other than technology will become more integrated. There will be a split. Technology will either be extremely integrated into people's lives, or people will be almost Luddite. They'll be very anti-technology. There's going to be a split between the naturalists and the synthetics. People that prefer the metaverse to real life versus those nutty hippies that, that like, I want my vegetables to be grown in horse shit or something, It's going to be the ultra-naturals and the ultra-synthetics. That's the only dichotomy that's not the right word. It's the only split that I see happening soon, because people argue left or right who's going to take over. Neither are going to take over, because both are fundamentally flawed on purpose. Both parties are unstable in their ideologies, so that way no one can hold power and no one will consistently vote for them. That's the whole point of having a multi-party system. Even though we technically have more than two parties, it's really just those two that do anything. But left and right eventually will become irrelevant. There will be a new split between their lifestyle. Because now a lot of things that were very taboo 50 to 100 years ago, homosexuality, transgenderism, basically not being white for a long time was just fucked up. There was rampant racism. There was that split in society. But now, as all those things are healing, and we're all kind of being like, yeah, actually, everyone's pretty fucking chill if you don't, piss on them, and treat them as lesser people just because of a difference. Eventually, there will be a new difference that people will be like, oh, well, I don't agree with that. These people, you need to have more bionic implants. And then the other side's going to be like, man, you need to get rid of your bionic implants. It's giving you cancer with the 7G and everything, man. The government's trying to control you through the Wi-Fi. Bullshit like that. I mean, the government doesn't have to control you through Wi-Fi. You're already controlled through Facebook and social media and behavioral psychology of advertising. That's how you're already hooked. But anyways, I digress. Going back to freedom. Freedom is a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful thing. Many people in this world do not have freedom because they don't know how to stand up for themselves, and they also don't know what freedom really is. They've been brought up in a strict regime of authority where things go down logical chains, and everything is very linear. You can't just go up to the top and talk to that person. You have to go through all the proper channels, or I couldn't do that, I'm not allowed to do that type of thinking. No one is ever allowed to do anything. They do it because it's right in their own eyes. Every dictator, though, has also thought that what they're doing is right. So just because you think you're right about exercising your freedom and that you should impose your model on the world doesn't mean it is morally right in the long run. If there even is a thing as morals, which I don't think there is. I just use the terms because people like to use them and talk about them a lot. But eventually, within a few hundred years, as technology branches out and connects bigger sections of the world, we will have a system emerge that will have to be essentially anarchistic. We won't have human leaders. We will follow algorithms. We will have certain modes of thoughts and behaviors that have been proven to do certain things, to have certain effects, and we will follow those. The new religion will be science. and the god will be man, essentially. But that eventually will collapse as well once coronal mass ejection happens and destroys all the technology that we have. Then we'll go back to the Stone Age, because people will eventually will start thinking in symbols again, emojis and all that shit. Very few people will actually read. This is future predictions. Blah, blah, blah. Few people will be able to actually read, just like in Fahrenheit 451 or 459. I can't remember what the name of that book is. Great book. But eventually we will have similar to Idiocracy. Everything will be done in symbols, pictures, pictograms, except for the elite that will, or the intelligentsia, you could say. Not necessarily elite. There's nothing elite about them. They will just have the knowledge that will be passed down on, like, how to read, how to write, how to build things without the use of robots, how to build things from scratch. Books will become like bricks of gold. But a coronal mass ejection or a war that sends off a huge EMP wave will destroy all the technology that we have, and we will eventually revert back to caveman. Or at least the majority of people will revert to caveman intelligence. They won't know how to do shit. A lot of people will die off. But then some knowledge will be preserved. And then the whole cycle will start again. And we're just going to start where we were about 10,000, 11,000 years ago. And that's probably going to happen in the next 200 to 500 years. If not sooner. But I don't think it'll happen anytime too soon. Because eventually we will have to have a system that is completely run by AI, or a computer system that is self-replicating, to where humans don't have to do anything. All we do is just fuck around. We will have a small golden age for a tiny bit, and then we'll revert back into the same cycle of the myths that have pretty much predict golden age, collapse of the golden age, and then a rebirth of civilization starting from a primordial small group of people. But anyways, that's my rant about the future, freedom, and things such as that. Alright. Peace. Don't forget to check out my website, EzekielSchmidtArt.com, and like the video.